I set up my label, I was really interested in how we could use fashion to change lives and to change the way that we think about the world. I've been working outside of the label in the ethical fashion world in general as Associate Director of the Ethical Fashion Forum, and also with my column for Eco-Tear, which is an online magazine based in the States. Ethical fashion is a kind of complicated thing to talk about because there are so many issues. It's about what clothes are made from, or jewellery, so it goes from gold mining through to how cotton's grown, how it affects farmers, how it affects miners, of course how it affects the planet. And then it goes through to, so who's then made something, what are the processes that take something through to that, how is it sold, what price is it sold for, who buys it, what do they do with it, how long do they keep it, where do they put it when they've had enough of it. There are so many issues, and what the ethical fashion movement is trying to do is make those issues more understandable and kind of combat them like little by little. So fashion has this amazing potential to change lives. At the moment, 80% of clothing is made in the developing world, which means that as an industry it covers so many countries in terms of who buys it, where it's made. Things travel a lot and they employ a huge amount of people in the world. So there's this real opportunity, if we change the practices around fashion, that we could have a world where people were able to buy design-led clothes. Maybe people would buy less, but what they would buy would be really, really quality pieces made from great fabrics that they would treasure and hand down. My background is in politics. I studied politics and parliamentary studies at Leeds University and was really interested in international development. I always did lots of things like running play schemes for children in deprived areas of Wales, teaching English to refugees, working in orphanages in Bulgaria. It's just how I enjoy spending my time because we're all humans and we've got so much to learn from each other, and I felt like I was in a position where I could do that with my time. And I actually worked in politics as well. I worked for a congressman in the US and also for an MP here in London. The way that I got into jewellery, which some people think is a little bit removed, for me it isn't, because everything was always about international development, and I had this realisation that because fashion was such a huge industry, it did have this enormous power to change lives, and that actually it was a lot of the same development issues, women's issues, poverty issues, water issues, climate change issues. These are all part of the fashion industry as well. I was lucky. I was thinking about these things and feeling a little bit frustrated, and then I got run over by a four-wheel drive pickup truck, which is one of the best things that ever happened to me, because there was a healing process, obviously, and it was quite scary at the time, but sometimes when something really awful happens, you just get shocked out of where you are, and you have this opportunity to cut down all the boundaries that anyone else has ever put on you, be it society or your family or what your own expectations of what you thought you were meant to be doing, and you're suddenly open to, it's like this childlike joy, and you're suddenly open to explore. So a lot of my friends and family thought I went completely mad, and I was painting and I was making clothes and I was making earrings and things like that, and it just filled me with loads of joy, and I realised that there was an opportunity to do something actually, that wasn't just for me but out in the world that expressed that. I really wanted to do something in India. It's where my family's from, and as a child I hadn't spent very much time there. When I was about 18, we started going there every year because my grandmothers were getting ill and my parents sort of wanted to go back and spend more time where they came from. And I thought it was a really great opportunity to learn about India for myself and do something there that wasn't to do with my family, which is what led me to set up the label there. So I do it in Delhi, which is, I only have one cousin there, so I don't sort of have my whole family trying to help all the time. And I found a workshop that has some really great people. A tool who helps me, Kishan, who's one of my wire workers. The silver that I use is 70 to 90% recycled, because most silver in India is recycled as opposed to freshly mined. I don't know where the gemstones come from in the whole of the supply chain yet, but it's something that I'm working on finding out more about with each collection, which is what you have to do when you're setting up an ethical brand. It's just about reassessing and finding out at every stage if you can go a little bit further. The first thing I want to show you is this necklace, which is actually my favourite necklace, and I wear it all the time. It's called Tender Wanderlust, and it's a really simple piece of rose quartz. Rose quartz is a really great stone because it's all about unconditional love. So love for yourself and for everyone else, and it's sort of good to remind yourself of that on a daily basis, especially when you live in London and you have to get the tube and people are in your personal space, that it's not their fault. And it's a great kind of, it's all about creating the right energy sort of all the way through the core of your body. These are my seductive snake earrings, which I really love, and they got featured in Grazia and lots of other magazines. They were actually co-designed between me and a designer that I met in India called Raul. This piece is called Salient Sage, and this is from my very first collection, and I love it. I just had this idea of how you could use thread with the stones and the silver and make a really sweet bracelet. And this thread on this one is pink and blue, so the idea is that those colours give a calming and peaceful influence. And then the stones are moonstone and black tourmaline, which is all about creativity and self-confidence. Yeah. And I think this is the necklace version, which is called Whispered Potency. So this is the piece that I did for Pavement for Catwalk on substance misuse. I did 3 pieces. One was about mental health, which was kind of like a glamorous head cage. The one was about homelessness, which was sort of a coat of arms with a big piece of labradorite to keep you safe. And this is the one about substance misuse. So for me, it's kind of saying that people that are trapped by drugs, it's like they might be sort of glamorous and out there, but actually they're in chains. This piece is called Honest Muse, and it's made from fluorite, so green and purple fluorite. Fluorite's a really interesting stone, as it's known as the stone for the mind. I like using this stone because it's actually all about how we absorb new ideas and increasing our concentration, which is something that we all need to be more open to doing. This is aquamarine, and this stone is the stone of courage, so it's about taking responsibility and being wary of casting judgment on others. This is a piece from a new collection, which is all about the 5 elements. I was in India with my family over New Year, and I was in an ashram studying with a Swami, and she was teaching us about the 5 elements, and it's this thing that we don't even think about because it's so natural and so part of this world. So earth, water, air, fire and space, and a kind of part of us. We all have these elements sort of balancing or not balancing within us, and then within the rest of the world. So if we can all find a way to balance them within ourselves, then that would actually lead to balance in the world. So the first stone is smoky topaz, which represents earth, and the element obviously is all about how you ground yourself, and then the stone is about joy and grounding. Then we have aquamarine to represent water, so obviously the fluidity of life, and this is the stone of courage that is all about how you judge others and taking responsibility. And then have fire, which is our passion, and fire is represented here by citrine, which is a stone of joy. We then have air, represented by labradorite. Labradorite is the stone of destiny, so it's kind of about how open we are, which is also what the air element relates to within us. And then we have the 5th element, which is something that was left out of Western thought, because I think it was Aristotle that decided that as we couldn't see it, it didn't need to exist. But in Indian and Chinese philosophy and other Oriental philosophies, they were always aware of the 5th element, which is the things that we can't see. And this stone is represented by moonstone, which is all about communication and confidence, and creativity, which is essentially what the space element is. And this ring is the Jagged Nebula, which has been one of the favourite pieces that I've done. It's black druzy quartz, so it's a black quartz with druzy is the natural thing that happens on the rock surface. So it's to do with some water and a really fast cooling process that creates these little crystals. And this stone is about self-confidence. And it also helps that you know that you could knock anyone out that comes anywhere near you.